and be lenient. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're delighted and happy that you're here with us, but mine is just to merely direct the program. And I was talking to colleagues earlier on, it is a rather short program because the whole focus and the whole purpose of this evening is to celebrate, and celebrate is exactly what we're going to do. To now welcome us officially to the event, I wish to call upon the Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Ms. Geraldine Fraser-Muleketi.
Program Director, Patron of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, President Mbeki and Suzanelle, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Majesties, Ministers, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, distinguished guests. I'd like to draw on a quote of President Mbeki, and I quote, "Gloom and despondency has never defeated adversity. Trying times need courage and resilience. Our strength as a people is not tested during the best of times," close quotes. Tonight, we're not going to analyze this particular quote. I thought I'd just place it foremost in your minds. I have a series of disclaimers to make about this event this evening. And this is because working with the President, or Chief, as many refer to him, and he refers to many of us over many years, I'm certain he wants a reasoned justification for why we are hosting a gathering of this nature. I know he would have preferred us to be dealing with the rebuilding of the ruins that his home, the African National Congress, has become, the fear of where this country will be tomorrow, or whether or not our continent will indeed be able to take its rightful place as it should amongst the nations of the world. After all, this 80th birthday coincides with 20 years of the African Union, the 20th commemoration or celebration of the African Union. And I think many of you followed the Africa Day lecture that reflected on some of the issues. So this event, Mr. President, is as a result of popular demand by many in this room and some who are at home. I'm not going to embarrass those who started sending numerous text messages last year inquiring whether the foundation will be hosting a party this year. And it's not because I'm fearing reprisals, or even they are, but thought it's not the moment to do that. However, as a board of trustees, we honestly thought that it's not every day that one reaches the milestone of 8 decades, especially when there's so much expected from them, not least on the African continent and the world over. And especially when we look at the 8 decades that we are celebrating today. But let me unveil some of the main conspirators. Mr. President, one of them, the chief conspirator, is Gloria Serobe, so she's identified tonight. And she was joined, and I will talk about how we referred to them, by Caroline Steyn, and not least our program director here, who thinks he's going to get fired. And if not by the president, I may still have a talk with you behind the stage at some point. So it was quite clear that I think after a period of a long lockdown, and with the many challenges we confront, that there was an insistence that we gather to mark and honor this significant milestone. Once it was decided that we were going to host an event, we then turned to a few friends to make this possible. And we looked at the ever-dependable Louisa Mugela at Wippold. We looked at Ari Rattenbach, the new CEO of APSA. And of course, you couldn't leave out a conspirator such as Saki Makozoma and Zodwa Manasseh to put together a stokvel that made this event possible. So let me emphasize a stokvel that made this evening possible. This evening and this celebration would not be complete without beverages donated by Diageo's MD Gavin Pike. And I trust that won't raise the conversation too many decibels as the night proceeds. So with these Stokvel members and various industry and other leaders in this room, and even those who are watching on live stream, I am convinced that when we look at the brain's trust that is there in this country, and as I said, outside of this room, elsewhere on the continent, we can make this country and continent work. Now, I also need to identify the final editor-in-chief of this event. And I know she doesn't like being mentioned, but I have the mic. And both in terms of content and even the suggestion of what it should be, that is President Mbeki. And I think we should give her a round of applause. Susanelle, I am yet to meet someone with your depth of content and style. And I believe that we managed to ensure that this event meets your standards, because it was quite a tough act to get right. As I recall, a previous attempt at celebrating President Mbeki's birthday was once cancelled by the president himself on national television. We didn't want to risk it this time. Now, Chief, I'm sure I've explained myself sufficiently and may not need to account more later on why we're all here tonight without your mandate. So we essentially wanted you to pause a little, reflect, relax, and allow us to celebrate your life's work and what and who you are to all of us. And I must emphasize that there's a Cameroonian sitting in Senegal, Dakar tonight, who said to me, Geraldine, make sure that you make the point that President Mbeki doesn't belong to South Africa. He's ours, he's African. So maybe I should conclude again with your words, and probably I'll add one other thing afterwards. And I quote, I owe my being to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glades, the rivers, the deserts, the trees, the flowers and the seas, and the ever-changing seasons that define the face of our native land, close quotes. And we will all endeavor to celebrate your 8 decades by ensuring that we make a difference to this continent and this country. So once again, to all those present here today, on behalf of our patron, on behalf of Sizanele, the Mbeki and Moirane families, the trustees and management of our foundation, our partners tonight, Wippold, Absa, Diageo, we welcome you to this event as we proclaim happy birthday to our patron, our own Mwalimu.
Now I can officially say the gates have been opened. Of course, there was a lot of profundity in what the chair had shared, but for the purposes of the event and the nature of the event itself, there's something mentioned about decibels rising at a particular time. Of course, it is in the culture and the nature of Stockvelds, as it was said, that people will most definitely be in a jovial mood. And this brings me now to the rules. By the way, I've got to declare, I do find some of these rules rather mundane and outdated. But for the purposes of culture, of course, we will most definitely now have to honor that. Rule number 1, no smoking in the room. I mean, who doesn't know that? Number 2, it always helps to be kind to the person seated next to you in case you're sitting to someone whom you're meeting for the first time. I'm not going to say the reasons given the age profile of the room, but I'm sure you know why it is actually an important rule. My favorite rule of them all is, of course, that of the bar. You see, under normal circumstances, whenever one gets invited to a dinner of this nature, as program directors or MCs or compeers, whichever way you wish to refer to us as, we always have this challenge. You invite people from their homes, they invest in expensive outfits. Nowadays, they get a makeup artist to come to their homes for what is known, Mr. President, as a face beat. I'll explain to you later what a face beat is, but it's not necessarily the beating of the face in the literal or physical sense. That's gender violence. So all go through all this trouble, hailing an Uber or driving or being driven, only to arrive to a function to be told that you'll only be offered Coke, Sprite, maybe a beer, maybe a Savannah. Of course, not a Savannah, not in this setting. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing. The bar is open. Of course, we know that you are quite a discerning crowd. You're not going to embarrass me now by abusing my generosity. But that's our final rule. Now, ladies and gents, now that we've officially been welcomed once again, and thank you so much, Chair, for that, and of course, the framing and the context at which you are putting this whole thing in, which of course, it's sparking us to think, as we're celebrating, we should not let go of our responsibilities as Africans in ensuring that each and every single one of us make the concerted effort, make the necessary contribution, make the necessary input towards the actualization of the African Renaissance. Now, of course, we are the hosts, or rather the hosts of this beautiful event, even if I have to say so myself. It is the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. Now, a lot of you may ask, what is the Thabo Mbeki Foundation? What does it stand for? What does it do? What is its mandate? What is its mission? What is its vision? To respond to that, of course, it can never be done in one setting and in one evening. I do, however, wish to call one of the board of trustees of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Minister Thoko Didiza. She's got quite a walk to make. I think if you were to help her do the walk, it would really put you in good stead. Talk about a catwalk. Thank you, Sister.
Thank you very much, our Program Director, Lupi, our patron of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, and our celebrant tonight, President Mbeki, and the ever-gorgeous Mamzanele Sisi to others. Your Excellencies, all present here, I've noted President Khalima. I've also noted our ministers and excellencies that are all here. Uhlanga lomhlabathi silo samabandla siyabingelela. Your Majesty, High Commissioners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I was told that I have to do a little bit of a commercial because that's what I'm doing. It's not about paying for your dinner, but it's just to remind you that at the end of the dinner, not that the debts have not been paid, but for the program of the foundation to continue, it does need to be given some petrol and some diesel. So what's the Thabo Mbeki Foundation? The Thabo Mbeki Foundation as an organization was launched on 11 October 2010, when more than 1,000 people from across the continent, and indeed in our own country, in the diaspora, gathered right where we are today at the Sandton Convention Center to launch what is now known as the Thabo Mbeki Foundation. And as our chairperson has indicated, that even today, a majority of African scholars and luminaries actually warned us even that day by the words of Professor Patili from Senegal, who said, remember that this foundation is not a South African entity, but it's a foundation for all Africans, to be able to build the human resource capability and thought leaders that we need so much in actually building our continent. Our President Mbeki, who's our patron, said on that day, the fundamental proposition from which we proceed is that the transformation which Africa requires is that prepares the necessary human capital, the brain workers, who should both conceptualize such transformation and participate in its implementation. Immanent in this proposition is the assertion that human capital should indeed be African, and therefore that to achieve our goals, we must rely decisively on African minds. The Foundation's vision, therefore, is to develop programs to address challenges facing the continent and to work collectively with other like-minded organizations and individuals committed to the renaissance of Africa. Those may be within our continent, others may be in the diaspora and outside. But as long as they wish to work with us in revitalizing and building our continent, they will walk with us. From its inception, the Foundation inspired renewed aspiration for Africa's renewal in the hearts and minds of many people. During the same launch of the Foundation, we also launched our flagship program, the Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute, commonly known as Timali, in partnership with the University of South Africa. The mandate of Timali was to develop and is to develop a cadre of thought leaders committed to Africa's renewal. After 8 years, some of the achievements of the Institute has been to actually release about 3,000 graduates who have come out of Timali. And by demand, Timali has now been upgraded to a graduate school, the Thabo Mbeki Africa School for Public and International Affairs, which is also based at UNISA, led by its Executive Dean, Professor Sibusiso Nkomo. In line with the President Mbeki's love of history and preservation of heritage, the Foundation has continued with documenting of South Africa's road to democracy, which has resulted in the production of 9 volumes made up of 14 books The latest book, Volume 9, which is available at stores, explores the power and authority of African women in Southern Africa and in Africa diaspora during pre-colonial and colonial times. This foundation program, which continues to research and produce new books, was initially and ably guided by Professor Magubane and now Professor Sfiso Ndlovu. It is now part of the Thabo Mbeki African School for Public and International Affairs. Our foundation continues to assist President Mbeki in his ongoing interventions in peace-building initiatives in continent, drawing from his experience in Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Burundi, the Comoros, Cote d'Ivoire, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, among other initiatives. President Mbeki is currently the chairperson of the AU High-Level Implementation Panel for Sudan and South Sudan. He is also the chairperson of the AU High Panel on the Security of the Horn of Africa and the AU-UN High-Level Panel on the Illicit Financial Outflows from Africa. Additionally, the Foundation supports President Mbeki in his activities as the chairperson of the board of South Center, a think tank of the countries of the Global South based in Geneva, Switzerland. The latest and most ambitious program of the Foundation is the Thabo Mbeki Library, which is intended to be a living library and museum which will narrate the story of Africa through and beyond former President Mbeki and other African leaders' work and impact within the larger context of African liberation and development. Lucanio will highlight some of these progress on this later. Despite institutional and capacity constraints, the Foundation has amazing convening power, which it is using to deal with many challenges facing not only South Africa, but our continent. To this end, over and above its aforementioned flagship programs, the Foundation has embarked on various initiatives and projects, namely the International Women's Day Lecture every March. The Foundation has been able to reach different constituencies across the world. This year's, for instance, International Women's Day Lecture was delivered by Professor Mohamed Yunus of Grameen Bank. The annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day Lecture, which is always held in May in partnership with UNISA, has become a mass calendar event for both young and old. The 12th annual lecture this year was presented by Professor Toyin Falola. The Concerned African Forum, an association of former diplomats and other progressive African voices, came together in 2011 and has continued to do so, particularly spurred by the invasion of Libya, to provide a collective voice to respond to the challenges of the continent. In 2011, out of the necessity to raise awareness and sharpen the debate, this grouping was actually initiated. I must actually say that one of the flagship programs is the partnership that the Foundation is involved in with the Africana community known as the AAI, an ongoing development partnership with 18 organized Africana groupings to respond particularly to the challenges of development in South Africa, whilst practically promoting social cohesion. The Foundation is also in partnership with Spain-based organization Pro Futuro and the Department of Basic Education, where they've embarked on an initiative of leveraging technology to close the educational gap that exists between rural and urban schools, and is currently reaching about 24,000 learners in 50 schools in the Eastern Cape and Mpumalanga. The Foundation plans, with the help of partners that might very well be in this room, to reach 1 million learners over the next 5 years. These programs and projects are overseen by the group of dedicated trustees and highly motivated and dedicated management team. We are confident that the Thabo Mbeki Foundation will continue to strive towards our objectives and beyond, and make a meaningful and lasting difference on our continent. who wouldn't want to be part of this journey? I'm sure all of you sitting in this room, having heard what we've achieved in such a short space of time, would really like to make your mark. It's not only about money. It's availing your time when we ask of you. It's also being able to give us your ideas on what we can do better. And what would be the nice birthday if not just doing a bit that you can to make South Africa and Africa a better place? President Mbeki, we want to say happy birthday once more. Thank you for allowing us to use your name to be able to achieve the ideals that you have stood for. Some of you may not know. I will tell a little bit of story. When we asked that President Mbeki, with all of this work that you are doing and the passion that you have on education, shouldn't you have a foundation that will encompass all your work? He wasn't quite pleased. After a lot of nudging and persuasion, he finally says, okay, let's have a foundation. I will just put my name so that we can all do what is necessary to be done in order for Africa to be a better world. That's why we say thank you for allowing us to use your name. And I'm sure as we continue with this journey, we will continue to remember who you have been, what you have done to make South Africa and Africa a better world. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Sis Toko. Now, that was not a 30-second advert. That was not a pitch. That was an entire campaign. In fact, it's a roadshow that could start from here and end in the deeper parts of the African continent. Thank you so much, Sis Toko. A big round of applause to Sis Toko for that. Because now, those of you who most probably had scant knowledge of who the foundation is, or perhaps those of you who were not quite clear as to what this foundation stands for and what it seeks to achieve, and what, in fact, it has achieved in these last few years, now you know. And those of you who can contribute, in fact, each and every single one of you, of course, can contribute to these programs that we have. Now that you know who we are and what we do, I have no doubt when we come knocking on your doors, you would not be startled by seeing these random people coming to you and asking for A, B, C, D, E, F. But tonight, of course, it's not about that. Tonight is about to celebrate. And now that our lunch, or should I say dinner, has been paid, we now know who the foundation is and what the foundation stands for. I think it's about time we stopped commodifying the patron. And let's bring it back home and bring it to family. Who is he to his family? We know who he is to the rest of us. We know who he is to the world that he continues to impact. We know who he is to the business associates, not that he's in any business, but we all know who he is at that level. But I guess right now, bringing it home, just so we can have an understanding of who he is in relation to his own family, I now wish to call upon Osisfezeka Mabona. She too deserves a big round of applause as she's making her way to the platform. In fact, the issue of hands, I had forgotten to mention. We did say, and we promised, that it's going to be a very short and brief program. But what I forgot to mention is that all we ask of you is a bit of energy. It's not easy walking up the stairs and coming up here and being all vulnerable in the presence of so many people. Those hands do help. Over to you, Sis Fezek.
Thank you, Program Director. All protocol observed. I'm bringing best birthday wishes from the members of the community of Mbeuleni and Ngwane in Dutwa in the Eastern Cape. They asked me to say to Thabo, Mpilontle, Mpilonde, kuwe Dlamini, Jamaga Sijatu, ukhule ungakhokhoki. And then the family wishes you a happy and a healthy 80th birthday. May you enjoy many more beautiful days ahead of you. We hope your 80th birthday is filled with love from family and friends. I want to add briefly that siyabathanda obhuti bethu thina. They are our center of gravity. And that is our sensitive spot. So, bhuti wami, siyavuya ukuba ude wafika kule minyaka. It has been a long way to where we are today. Ukhule ungakhokhoki. Makube cama, makube chosi kubele. Kudede ubumnyama kuvele ukhanya. Happy birthday.
Mzala, as I always tell you, I'm older than you. So you must always respect me and call me ubhuti wakho. But on a serious note, I wish you a long, long life. I wish you good health and happiness, and continue what you are doing for our nation. You have really, really made us proud, and continue doing that. We love you as a family. Thank you. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of our extended family all over the globe, in America, in Sweden, in the UK, in Lesotho, in Swaziland, in Botswana, all over the globe. Mzala, all the best.
And I was made to believe that there's a special gift that Advocate wanted to gift his Mzala with. Advocate Morana, could you please now come and do the official handing over of the gift? As he makes his way to his Mzala, they can battle it out as to who's older than whom. That has very little to do with us. If you ever had a stint, I know some of you were raised in the townships, but if you had a little stint in the villages, you would know that indaba zabantu azingenwa. So we are definitely not going to enter into this age battle.
Program Director, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As a family, we got together and thought about what gift we should give to this young man. We thought of giving him money, but you know, Thabo does not know what to do with money. He's got a master's degree in economics from Sussex, but he just does not know how to handle money. I'm sure if you were to give him money, he would not know what to do with it. He doesn't buy his own clothes. He doesn't pay for anything. And we thought maybe, you know, if we give him a lot of money, he might have a problem of where to hide the money. So instead of giving him tens and thousands of yuans and euros and dollars and rands, we decided to get him this present. Mzala, please come up and receive your present.
There's more space.
Thank you so much, Advocate. Yes, you may sit down, Mr. President.
No, I only want to say thank you to my cousin here. There's something wrong about this. You know, in India, it's allowed to say, my name is Marumo Mwarane, and you put PhD, and then brackets failed. So you see this picture. This gap should be on this one. Because this one is PhD failed. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. President. I think we've come at that point now where we've paid the tax, we've paid the rent, and of course we've heard from family. One can now officially say that we are welcome and we can now have the starters served. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this segment. We will be back shortly.
for Ukraine to be able to talk